Protect free speech at Scottish universities or we all lose out. Now, this is obviously something that I've been saying for a very long time. Universities are meant to be the central focal point for a discussion of many different types of ideas, ideologies, facts, information, research, blah, blah, blah. As soon as you start restricting that stuff, well, then it's not really an education, is it? It becomes propaganda. You know, you're supposed to be able to choose and decide what knowledge that you would like to partake in. Universities seem to go, well, no, we don't like that because universities, especially the student unions and the staff, they are leftist. They're leftist organisations and they want to only teach a left-wing perspective and a left-wing view. That means in future generations, they will all be left-wing people because they never even really had access to any opinions from the other side. Because that's the problem is liberals are not procreating. They're not having babies, they're having abortions. So the only way that they can actually propagate their ideology is to get your children. So basically they require a host, like a parasite, you see? They're not able to reproduce on their own, so they have to latch onto a host. Right? And then what they do is they convert your children into little liberals, and they might come home and saying, I'm a gender-bending otherkin trans-binary Muslim or some shit like that, because they're not reproducing on their own, which can be a good thing. Like, that's fine, you know, we'll have the babies. We'll inherit the future. Now, UK government is bringing in long-awaited legislation to stop cancel culture running rampant on campuses in England and Wales. Will the SNP be brave enough to follow suit here in Scotland? It's not a matter of them being brave, they just literally don't want to, because freedom of speech is diametrically opposed to their own ideas. They want speech restricted. They only want their own opinions and support of themselves to be out there. They don't want any other kinds of speech out there. Like, the SNP are an authoritarian party. You cannot appeal to an authoritarian party to protect your human rights, right? The SNP, they're done, right? They're not... Yes, you know, you're asking a rapist to not rape you. You're asking a murderer to not murder you, right? You're asking a butcher to not sell meat, right? I'm sorry, that person has a purpose. They are what they are. You cannot ask them to do the opposite of their intended purpose. You know, it's the scorpion and the frog, right? It's in their nature, right? So brave enough to follow. They're not gonna. They hate speech. They absolutely hate free speech. What do you remember learning at university? For most, the residual knowledge... I didn't really learn much. I got a degree in computer games design. You can all see how well that went. Didn't originate in the 9am lectures or 3am exam crams, but in the cut and thrust of the debate chamber, the thought-provoking guest speakers, the lively conversations over pints, the ideal university experience doesn't as much teach you what to think, but how to think. But the class of 2023 have been robbed of these knowledge-rich experiences as a wave of censorship has captured institutions. They censor another thing that students get taught, another thing they get propagandized to in universities is how to shut speech down. Because that's what they do. That's the main thing they protest about now. Or is such and such a speaker coming? Or did such and such a lecturer tweet a spicy thing? Or did this happen? Does that? Let's get together and shut them down. They're getting trained how to do that. Basically, when you come out of university, or a person's saying something I don't like, we'll all just band together and shut them down because, you know, we were just... The educational system raised me to believe that that's just the thing you do. That's a normal thing to do. In fact, it's a good thing to do. A good citizen to essentially become a finger man. As a wave of censorship has captured institutions, last week another screening of the gender-critical film Adult Human Female was cancelled due to activist protesters at the University of Edinburgh who surrounded the building, triggering safety concerns. The filmmakers have described their cinematic piece as an explainer about the experience of women in the current cultural climate, and how difficult it has been to be heard, to be listened to. The irony of a film about listening to women being silenced speaks volumes. So essentially, the protesters proved the film right. You proved their point. Like, that guy, was it Harry the Owl? I think it was Harry the Owl, don't quote me on that, tweeted out the trans flag, but it was rearranged to look like a swastika to show that basically LGBT advocacy groups are now extreme fascists and authoritarians, especially when it comes to speech. So they called the police and got the guy arrested, thereby proving him right. You know, self-fulfilling prophecy. When censorship kicks in, it's not only the deplatformed party who loses. It's the students who didn't get to engage with the argument set out, think about it, challenge it, and arrive at their own conclusions. And that's something that I see all the time. I literally, just 5 minutes ago, I got in an argument with a guy where he says, freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences. And I says, well, can you define some of these consequences? And he couldn't do it. He literally couldn't do it because students now aren't being taught how to actually defend their arguments and have a debate. Their go-to now is just, no, shut this guy up, get him deplatformed. And that's the point now. Like, see, this is the thing that is terrifying, to be honest, is when you ask these people to explain why they believe what they believe and then to defend it, they can't. They literally can't. And it's like, I can't wrap my head around the idea that someone can believe in something yet not explain why they believe in it. I mean, just a while ago as well, actually, I had a Scottish nationalist, the fake ones that are like, Scotland should be independent, but in the EU, those LARPers, right? Asked one of them to define what independence was, and he couldn't do it. He couldn't define what independence was. Yet, he calls himself, a Scottish nationalist that wants independence. I want independence now. Scotland needs independence. Well, what is independence? I don't know. Like, that's how you see. I try to avoid the whole NPC thing. That is NPC behaviour. You had an idea downloaded into your head in university, and when you're asked to explain it, you literally can't. Right? That's why they don't know how to defend ideas anymore. They just know how to shut other ideas down so that their idea wins by default. Right? Get the other guy kicked out of the boxing match so that you win on a technicality. It's not because you're the better fighter or your ideas are better. You just had to rig the rules a little bit so that you won by default. That's what they're being trained to do. Yet, these are the leftist good guys. We're the evil right-winger. Like, fucking shut up. Edinburgh students can hardly be said to disagree with gender-critical thought at this point. They merely haven't heard the case. That's no win for either side. They haven't heard the case of the opposite side. That's right. And it kind of is. I don't know. It's just very telling when you have your little people on your side and you're trying to go, don't listen to that guy. Don't listen to him. It kind of feels like. It feels like the cult leader, when the guy runs in and goes, that man is a charlatan, all this stuff is fake, and then the cult leader starts going, shut him up, I can't have my people hearing the truth. That's what it's like. That's what it looks like from an outside perspective. You're being the dodgy guy that doesn't want the truth revealed to your followers because you know you'll lose them, because you know you're full of shit. That's what it looks and what it feels like. This isn't an isolated case. Earlier in this academic year, activists stormed a meeting of Edinburgh University's Students for Life Society, where a guest speaker was making a feminist case against coerced abortion. A band of darkly clad protesters rallied behind a megaphone carrying blue-haired leader, yelling that they would not allow this talk to continue and that the speaker was using harmful rhetoric against people with uteruses, right? These groups are authoritarian groups, you know that. They're authoritarian, state-provided PSYOP groups that are trying to control the flow of information. These are the same type of people that 20 years ago would be defending places like the Pirate Bay or Julian Assange and all this type of stuff. Freedom should be free. Yeah, freedom should be free. Yeah, well done. Sorry, it's late. Information should be free. We should allow for the free flow of information, but now that it's come to their own ideology that's come under attack, they've just become the exact same type of authoritarians as the governments that they proclaim to hate. They're engaging in the exact same thing. Oh, but we're the good guys. We've called ourselves the anti-bad guy squad, which means that we're good. Idiots. Useful idiots. If students cannot hear and appropriately engage in discussion on campus without brandishing a megaphone, how will they cope with hearing different ideas in the real world? The idea is they can't. I mean, you've all got Twitter accounts. How much of a fucking meltdown do these people have when you question them? Again, I love arguing on Twitter. A guy the other day, I just asked him a question, and he had a complete fucking shit fit. Like, it's saying you're meant to raise children to be adults, right? Universities are raising children to carry on being children. Honestly, it's fucking terrible. The best remedy for bad rhetoric is to counter it with better rhetoric. Opponents need to learn to make their own case. Yep, that's correct. Very soon, a long-awaited bill will graduate from Westminster to protect open conversation on English and Welsh campuses. A lot of people are very upset about this. However, you need to remember that freedom of speech literally is a fundamental, basic human right. That all of the other rights are. It's the foundation. All the other rights, the one that trans rights now, blah blah blah. Oh wow, how did you get those? Are you asking for them? Are you airing your grievances towards the state, and the state are going to do things about it because you're able to communicate that information? Wow, isn't it nice that you have the right to free speech to be able to do that? As soon as you go after the fucking free speech, you won't be able to do that anymore. You take away the free speech, all the other rights tumble. What are you going to do about it? Protest? No, you can't, because that's illegal now too. Right, see any time I see any of these protests now, can someone just edit over it with Turkey? Like Turkey fucking calls or some shit like that, because these people are the turkeys voting for Christmas. The Higher Education Freedom of Speech Bill will require student unions to take reasonably practicable steps to secure free expression for members and visiting speakers. Academics, students, or guest presenters will be empowered to seek compensation through the courts if they suffered a loss from a free speech breach. I love that, free speech breach. Oh, the government should start enforcing those. A breach of freedom of speech? Oh, I would love those getting enforced. They won't fucking do it, but it'd be nice. And the new director for freedom of speech and academic freedom at the Office of Students will be created. I'd take that job. I can't take that job. I've got far too much. If I had nothing to do, I would totally take that job. With powers to investigate infringements of freedom of speech on university campuses. Ooh, that's music to my ears. Music. Scottish universities are some of the brightest and best academic hubs in the world, especially Edinburgh University. That used to be world famous. It will forever damage their credibility if students are denied real debate north of the border, but are encouraged to engage in the marketplace of ideas down south, which basically I love that when Scotland went, you're not allowed to go outside and party. So many people in Scotland went down to England for New Year's. They just went, all right, fuck you then, and went down there. And all the bars and clubs in England got all that money. Scotland didn't get a fucking penny. That was, deserved. Almost a third of Scottish students Almost a third of Scottish students admit that they have hidden their true opinions at university because they clash with those promoted by the institution. That's hardly a triumph for diversity. And that's the advice that I give to everybody just now. I get emails all the time. Hi, Dank, I'm at university, I'm a student. However, I'm right wing. I believe that immigration should be cut, blah, blah. I'm in the Tories, I'm with UKIP, I'm with blah, blah, blah. What should I do? And my advice that I give to all of them is just keep your fucking mouth shut, get your degree, and get the fuck out. Basically, that system is broken. Like, universities at this point are the woman with two black eyes going, I can fix him. Like, that's what the government is like that at this point, right? They're broken. They're not things that can be fixed, right? So the only thing you can do is keep your head down, keep your mouth shut. Whenever people talk about your refugees, just bite your tongue, keep your mouth shut, get your degree, and get the fuck out, right? Because unfortunately, these places that have been, they're leftist training boot camps now. You need to go to these places if you want to get advanced careers in the specific field that you want a job in. So that's the problem. In order for you to excel in society, you need to shut the fuck up about your opinions. And I say until these places change, they can't be changed, right? They're done. They're gone. Basically, you need to just do away with these places in their entirety because they can't be fixed. Government, universities, all that, they can't be fixed. You just need to do away with them. Right, we've had a bash at it. It's fucked up. Let's not stand on the broken patio that's going to cave in any second. Let's just tear it all down and throw it out. Right, we had a bash. We fucked it up. Unfortunately, not much we can do now. The patio has woodworm. If we wanted to stay competitive in the academic arena, it's time the government took a look at strengthening a free marketplace of ideas on campus. Our future generation of thought leaders depends on it for their ability to, well, think. Which is absolutely true. Who wrote this article? It is phenomenal. It's lovely. Lois McClatchy. Well done, Lois. That was an excellently written article. That was fantastic. And you're absolutely correct. Yes, you're supposed to be able to access all kinds of information, debate, and discussion, but what has happened is an authoritarian ideology has managed to co-opt these institutions in order to promote its own ideology. Basically, you're not going to get a big mix of political opinions when people come out of universities. You're going to get, because they're being propagandized to be in the future left-wingers, because like I said, they're not having babies. They're not having babies, they're having abortions, right? They're going out and sucking 10 dicks at the weekend and then popping a plan B, right? They're not exactly mother material, would you say? And I will say I'm glad they're not raising children, like, to be honest, for many reasons. But that's why they have to then latch onto yours like little parasites. Right, they're going to raise your children to be authoritarians. Like in 1984, where all the adults were terrified of the children because the Big Brother equivalent of the Hitler Youth had completely brainwashed them. Where even though children knew their parents would get murdered, they would snitch on their own children because they weren't loyal to their parents; they were loyal to Big Brother. Right. Now you're getting people. Now you're going to get instead of just having that little, the little blue-haired niece at Christmas dinner who would just tell you to shut up and then make a big Reddit post about it. Now that blue-haired niece is going to call the cops for the things you said about migrants. That's the type of future that they want. They need to get your children in order to do it, though. I like the fact that they've just kind of admitted, look, adults are dead hard because they kind of like think. So we have to get in there early with their children to brainwash them so that the future can be ours. It's a sad state of affairs that they have to resort to that, but it's very good that a lot of people are starting to catch on.